Hi everyone, my name is Maria. I'm known as Velo Sews on social media and you're in my sewing room, and this is my slightly different Friday Sews update. I hope you've all had a good week, and I'm going to tell you about a couple of things that I'm actually working on right now. There are other things that I've almost finished, which I'll also let you in on. The jacket behind me is one that I probably made from scraps of a coat, look, at least 20 years ago. I wore it a couple of days ago because it got a little bit cold, and I thought, oh, this really feels nice. I really like the way it feels. And I found the pattern, and it's McCalls 4596. That's that one here. And let's have a look. When was it printed? 2004. So yeah, probably 20 years ago I probably made this jacket. So some of the things that I like about this jacket is not just the colour, but it's a wool, and it's a fairly thick wool. And part of the issue that I had at the time was trying to sew through the layers around the zipper. A lot of this is hand stitched, and this was way before I did any of the French couture sewing classes with Susan Calgier a few years ago. Anyway, long story short, I cut out a couple of pairs of trousers, which I'll get onto in a minute, and I saw this fabric sitting in my stash. So this fabric and the lining were two pieces that I bought from Achieve, which is the sewing basket, and it's just around the corner from me. There was just enough fabric. This is pretty much all I've got left. The undercollar was cut in two pieces. I didn't wash this fabric, so it's secondhand fabric that I know of, right? Because it's from Achieve, and it looked really bad. I should have washed the fabric. I just got so excited to make it. Anyway, the undercollar is the upper collar. No one's going to know. There's a seam at the back, and I'm currently finishing the hem of this jacket on. So next week you'll see the final version of this jacket. So it is, again, McCalls 4596, and I've done view D. Okay, so the other reason I cracked this one open again is it's got all of the shape changes or adjustments for my body. Those shape changes haven't changed in that time, other than sometimes I put on weight, which is, you know, it happens. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm thinking of doing this style with my Linton Tweed. So that would be my Chanel number 6, because I do have some of that Linton Tweed which doesn't have checks or stripes, no, horizontal stripes maybe. So that's the other reason why I thought this style would be good in a very plain Linton Tweed, and then what I can do is decide on any embellishments. So the nice thing with this is it's got pockets in the side seams. So when it comes to a Chanel jacket, there's usually the large pockets near the hem and the smaller pockets towards the top. So I'm going to think that through, and that's why I've decided to use McCalls 4596 as a test version in this secondhand fabric for a future Linton jacket. I don't know, let's see how it goes. So as I said, before I cut out this jacket, because I'd worn that early in the week, I actually did cut out 2 pairs of trousers. Now, it's really great that we have sewing challenges, but then sewing challenges are such a motivator. They divert me from the things that I actually am wanting to sew next. So a couple of days ago, I cut out 2 pairs of trousers using these 2 linen fabrics. So this sort of rusty colour, I've cut out properly with a proper fly front, which is what I forgot to do for this one. And I did it in boot cut. Anyway, one's boot cut and the other one's straight cut. And I've used both of these linens because I actually made 2 tops on the weekend. So I've been editing a podcast, the 100 Hearts Project, for Rhonda and the Guardians of the Heart sewing knit tops in between editing actually relaxes me, and I can think about, okay, have it done it right. Long story short, I got really excited, cut this one out first, and I looked at the center front and I thought, you didn't do the fly front. Anyways, that has been resolved. Not sewn yet, because I ended up sewing this jacket. The pants that are made out of this fabric do have a proper fly front. And they've both got curved waistband. No elastic, they're just normal waistbands, so that the waistband sits on my waist. And both pants will also have belt loops from previous projects. I tend to sew these first, and I sew extra ones in case I need them, or in case I've miscalculated. So I always do one extra. That's just what I do. Next week, you'll see the matching knit top with pants that is going to become a capsule. Anyway, moving on. So in Sew for 50 News, I'm on the account this week with Sue and also with Sandy. So on the Sew for 50 account, you can see what the sewing challenges are for July. And I think July is a very quiet month because everyone is on summer holidays and the rest of us are freezing in winter. So my post that's going out on Saturday is going to be a roundup of all of the Sew Fruity Challenge people in the Sew for 50 community. What I've found as taking part in Sew Fruity is that it provides you with the motivation to really have fun with colour, and it's probably why I ended up deciding on this jacket. Anyway, I've diverted again. There are a lot of really creative pieces in the Sew Fruity Challenge for 2026. So keep an eye out for that on the Sew for 50 account. So lastly, in Sew Organised Style podcast news, I'm working with Rhonda, who is Anarchy Quilter, and I've got all of the recordings of the Guardians of the Heart. So the 100 Hearts project is what the next podcast is about. It's going out on the 14th of July. There is also a recording of the CEO and founder of Her Heart Australia. So I'm really honoured to be putting this podcast together. I've given myself a couple of weeks to get this done right, so that it really shows you the depth of people's feelings about heart disease prevention, and providing these 100 patches for Rhonda's quilt. There's actually over 200 patches now, so yay everybody. So that's on the next Sew Organised Style podcast. And lastly, on Everything Frock Towels Instagram account, there are there are 6 events now in 2027. The number of Frock Towels events that are happening since I started the account has almost doubled. So I think there are about 40, and look, there's got to be at least 80. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that people who are running Frock Towels events either collaborate or tag the account. It's a free account. Everything Frock Towels is a free account. I consider it a community board. So even if the event that you're running is not a Frock Towels evening event, it can be any sort of get together, like Sophisticated, which is being run by Surrey Sews. I'll put that onto the account so that people know that your event is there. If you're running an event which is social or helps the community in some way, tag Everything Frock Towels. A personal thank you to everyone who liked the amount of sewing that I did in June. Now, I didn't realise how much I had done because I had a couple of deadlines for Miniver.com, and then I got really excited about Sew Fruity as well as Sew Together for Summer, which is Jen Legg and Susie's Sewing in Spain account. So there was a lot of sewing that happened in June, and now that it's July, I'm, as you can see, ready to start on another Chanel jacket. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room. My name is Maria. I'm known as Velo Sews on social media. This is my sewing room. Have a great weekend. Have a great week of sewing, and let's see, may your unpicker be close to you. It's always with me. Bye.